Today I would like to share a little about crystal generators. Crystal generators are a great tool to use for keeping your home clean, for intensifying energies, for intensifying the energy in your healing space. I hope all of you have a dedicated meditation space with your little altar and that you keep clear in your home where no one else goes. It's just your space. Great thing to have. I don't suggest that you have crystals that you use for a variety of purposes, that you keep your crystals for whatever specific purpose that they are trained for and programmed for. Certainly until you develop the ability to be able to very quickly reprogram a crystal, and most of you probably aren't really there yet. So until you become adept at being able to do that, I would strongly suggest that you had crystals for a particular purpose. Having said that though, if you only have a few crystals, you can use them for different purposes, provided you spend the time to relate with the crystal and really empathically convey to it your intention and an understanding of the purpose for which you want to use it for. Now, it's very easy to set up a crystal generator, and I often use quite much larger crystals than this for a generator. However, I've just used quite small crystals here, except for obviously the one in the centre, because I just want to show you how potent a crystal generator can be with good quality crystals that aren't necessarily very large. You do need very good quality females though, none of this sort of half male, half female thing. You need male, the male crystals need to be very clear, very masculine. The female crystals need to be very female. And the centre crystal, ideally a very strong sense of that masculine assertive kind of energy from the crystal, just with the faintest little hint of the feminine energy sort of dispersed through it. And the centre crystal has to still have part of its rock base. It can't be broken off somewhere along the crystal. It needs to have part of the rock base that it's grown in, and either just very carefully cut off at the bottom. You don't want to, when the bottom's been smoothed off, if it's actually cut through the rock base into where the crystal is, it's going to be no good for a generator, because a whole bunch of the energy is going to go down, and you want all of the energy to come up and radiate out through the crystal. The other alternative is a whole bunch of blue tack underneath the crystal, which is good until it turns into a really hot day and you may have a bit of a droopy generator, but that will actually work. Or you could even, if you wanted to dedicate a particular crystal, even get some plaster of Paris, and which you can just buy at a hardware store and make a little container. It's a good idea even actually to make a wooden board if you have a dedicated generator, and you can affix some sort of container, not plastic, to the centre, and just fill it with plaster of Paris, and when it's almost set, just put the crystal in it and it'll sit there nice and firmly. So the main male crystal needs to point due north, right? And that's due north here. So I've got actually a masculine smoky crystal which is pointing due north, and the female needs to point due south, and the other male needs to point to the east, not on the east side, point to the east, and the other female point to the west. And you need to get that very, very close to spot on. This particular building is lined up perfectly square to the north, so it's very easy. Otherwise you're going to need a compass, and I actually always carry a little compass with me wherever I go to do any crystal work. And an unbroken copper ring around the main. You don't actually need the copper, but it certainly increases the potency. It stops a lot of the energy spreading out. It keeps it really focused, and it tends to build a field and then radiate from about 30 centimetres, a foot above the crystal in the centre. When you use the copper rings, it modifies the electromagnetic field, and you just have a U-shaped copper piece at the back of each crystal, and a ring around the centre one. Once you've used them for a while, you'll find that the energy will just start to build as soon as you put them in formation. When you first start to do it, you need to really hold that understanding of what it's all about, why you're actually doing it. Send love, make sure the crystal's very clear, and project love mainly into the centre crystal until you start to get an outflow response from that and really start to feel the energy coming from that. And to energise the other ones, you place always your right hand over the masculine one, your left hand over the feminine one, and project unconditional love until you get an outflow response of energy from them. You'll feel that energy coming from them. The same with the other two. And normally you'll get a response fairly quickly. John may get orders for several hundred more pieces of copper. Thanks, John. And you feel the energy start to build, connect with the earth, down through the centre of this crystal, go right to the core of the earth. And it's all about healing energy. We're utilising crystals not as a magical tool to amplify our will and to project that will out into the world. That's called black magic, right? What we are doing here is using our interaction with the mineral kingdom, the crystalline kingdom of the planet, to influence the crystalline structures of our own bodies in order to bring on healing gifts and high sense perception, seership, within a healing context. And as we give, we will receive. It's all about developing your gifts within a healing context. That's what this is all about. The same thing with the generator. It's about amplifying healing energies and radiating healing energies. That's what you use this for. And it will, as you set it up in your meditation space in your home and relate with it, it will amplify your meditations. It'll also assist you to, it will make it more difficult for you to turn a blind eye to issues which are coming up, which really need to be dealt with. It will tend to accentuate and heighten your awareness of your own furballs, which is great, because then you know, oh, well, that's what I need to be working with, that's what I need to be refining, clarifying, purifying within myself so that I can move more into mastery. So that's another great thing. But it's quite easy, once you've been running a generator like this for about 36 hours, its field, if you are completely doing so in order to amplify healing energies, you'll certainly build a field which will encompass your entire house. So can you feel the energy that's coming from here? I like this combination of crystals. It's kind of intense, but it's kind of gentle at the same time, which I really like. Don't use your dedicated wands for healing for any other purpose. You can get away with other things, but your dedicated wands you really want to keep just for working with the human energy field. Now, what I want to do is show you how you can alter the characteristics of the field. If you want to increase the potential for to create a fortified psychic protection kind of field for whatever reason, what you do is you get some lapis and some fluorite. It needs to be cut into the crystal shape with the points, and if you place the fluorite there between the north and the east and have the lapis opposing it, then that in itself, and sending love to that, and communicating to the guardians of the earth that what you need to do is to fortify and increase the protective nature of the energy field that you are building. You'll find that there will very quickly be a response from the guardian energy through the crystal generator, which will increase let's say it will fortify the boundaries that you have set up to protect the healing space. So this is a great thing to do if you have a healing clinic of any kind. You'd always want to set up around your doorways light curtains with protection, which makes sure that anyone that comes in through the door doesn't bring entities with them, just they come themselves, and without any sort of negativity that may be sort of carrying around with them. So you can feel that there's a difference in the energy field that's being radiated there. If you just want to increase the intensity of the field, a pair of smoky quartz crystals, I have a lovely little double terminated one here, which actually has quite a feminine feel, and a very, very, very masculine piece of citrine smoky here. And I put the masculine piece here and the more feminine piece on the other side between the two female crystals. And you can then start to feel the energy that's being radiated really start to ramp up. It doesn't actually get aggressive, but it gets very, very, very intense. There's lots of other things that you can do. If you want to create a field which is very conducive to doing readings, to high sense perception, instead of having the two smokies, what I would suggest was to have a pair of amethysts. That's a wand made out of amethyst shard, which is the deep layer below where the just towards the outside of the geode that the amethyst grows in. We put that between the females. You don't find that you need the copper for the extra crystals, and the masculine one on the other side. And just send love to all of that. So bring that energy up through the earth, and you start to feel a gentle stimulation, almost like a butterfly dancing in the region of the crown chakra and the brow. You get this very gentle, stimulating, opening energy for the head centers, which is great for doing readings. If you want to add that sort of element of courage to the generator, what I would suggest is a tiger eye wand, a good quality tiger eye wand, and have put that then, we'll even leave the amethyst there, on the corner where the females are. And whatever crystals, if you sort of imagine that the base is a square, whatever crystals that you want to place within the field need to be within the confines of a square which is drawn around the periphery of the base. So the tiger eye still within the periphery of the base as a square on the female side, and sunstone on the male side. And as you then send love to that, you'll get this amplified feeling of, oh, courage, I can do it, yeah. And the field actually then is very nurturing and very encouraging, which can be a wonderful thing. And then on top of that, the thing that I like to do, and there's lots of different things, you can experiment with different crystal wands and crystal points in there, but I just happen to know how this particular generator behaves with different things. Now we want to add that real strong sense of unconditional love and compassion. So what I do then is I add a natural citrine point, and it's just something that's essential for your toolkit, a really good quality natural citrine point. And you put that between the north-facing crystal and the female next to it. Here I'm going to put it behind the fluorite. And a piece of rose quartz. It's very hard to, you can actually get rose quartz crystals, but they're incredibly rare. I actually have a big geode of rose quartz crystals, but I looked for years to be able to find that. Another really good thing to have in your toolkit is a piece of rose quartz which has been chipped into roughly a crystal point kind of shape, and so it's very similar to an amethyst point, that kind of shape. And then we put that on the opposite side, in this case behind the lapis, and we then change the vibration of the generator to have a very strong sense, a very strong feeling of compassion. So we have compassion, we have courage, we have this very gentle opening, awakening of the high sense perception happening. It's a good strong field for psychic protection in order to keep the environment clear and free of negativity and doubt and disbelief, fear and so forth. So this is the kind of generator that I like to have set up in my personal healing space and leave set up. Now, over the next 36 hours, if I was to leave this here, it'll just build and build and build, and then it'll reach a point where it just sort of sits there and it just radiates this lovely energy. It will also create a mechanism which allows you to connect with the crystal intelligence, the elemental intelligences of the earth that we've been working with over the last week or so. And whenever you're not in your integrity, whenever you're not in ethics, whenever you're not walking the talk of mastery and unconditional love and so forth, you'll actually get a vibe through the medium of the generator of where you are being in hypocrisy, where you are not being your authentic self. You can actually use it as a kind of an oracle, like people use cards or runes or whatever. You can actually sit there and meditate, and you can actually skive off this in the same way that you can with a candle reflecting on water. The elemental intelligence working through the crystal generator can actually give you a skiving reflection either through the planetary mirrors or through the universal mirrors, which we've talked about extensively and dealt with elsewhere as part of the seaship training. You can also get a massively amplified reflection from both the universal mirror and the planetary mirrors. So that's also a use for them as well. How's that feeling for people? You can really feel the way that the energy sort of changes subtly. So I'd certainly develop the ability to be able to do these. You want it somewhere where no one's going to start playing with it, no one's going to start touching it. You really should have a place in your own home. It's not too much to ask to have a small area that you can lock, which is just for you to go and meditate and be with yourself and relate with the energies. Yeah? And this is something that you want to have in there, a nice little sort of altar-y thing sort of set up with your crystal generator on it. Keep your other crystals there. Try and get yourself a really nice little geode, because a geode, particularly at the full moon, you can put your crystals in there and it'll cleanse all your crystals. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Could you explain again about the bottom of the generator? I didn't quite understand what you were saying.
Well, the bottom of the central crystal, it's important that it's not broken, that it still actually has part of the substrate that it's grown out of. It can't just be broken halfway up the crystal, right? It's not going to work. It's a dead crystal essentially. So ideally, your crystals which have grown like that will all have at least a small part of the substrate that they've actually grown in. And then if it's been cut, you want to make sure it's going to be a very clear crystal. So the substrate will also, because the lattice is different, you'll always find that the base will be slightly opaque. If it's been cut back to the point where there's any place on the bottom where it's starting to look clear, you've actually cut into the crystal itself, and the elemental intelligence will certainly have left if that is the case. And so that's going to be of no use. This crystal still is in its substrate, and although it's had a little bit taken off to make it flat so that it will stand up, it hasn't gone anywhere actually near into the living part of the crystal. It's just kind of the dead mineral element which has actually been cut, which is forming its base.
If you have a crystal cluster that has all the base stuff still there, but that feels kind of feminine, but all the points are masculine, is that masculine enough for your generator, or does it have to be?
You don't want to use a cluster for a generator. You want a single point.
Okay.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter what it looks like, it matters what it feels like. It's got to feel feminine or feel masculine. It's not so much, you can't get caught up in labels too much and go, well, okay, here's a picture of a crystal, so if it looks like this is what it is. It's what it feels like. So when you send love to it, what's the outflow like? Does it feel that masculine assertive energy, or does it feel like that feminine receptive energy? So you can have two crystals that look almost identical, but when you send love to them, the response is quite different. There's a whole lot of things which make a difference. How they were oriented rotationally, even as they've been growing. Two crystals can be growing right next to each other and look almost identical, but one was sort of oriented with its matrix sort of pointed to the north, and now the other one was to the southwest, and they'll actually respond quite differently just because of that. You know, these things grow over millions of years. So, you know, they actually, just like when you're growing your body, what the reason astrology works is because when you're growing your body to incarnate into, there are certain, the planet's in a certain position in the solar system and the galaxy and so forth. There are certain energies available to you based on the location of the planet at the time. These crystals, you know, depending on when they've come into being and how long they've been growing, they have experienced for hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of years, everything which is going on the planet, including all the stuff which has happened within the human kingdom. So depending on the location and what sort of happened around there, how sensitive they were at the time, you know, they absorb, they're imbued with all kinds of different energies based on the environment, the environmental factors and the psychic conditions and the conditions of the mass consciousness on the planet that they've been exposed to. So there's an enormous amount of influences, enormous amount of factors which come into play to dictate the way that they're going to behave when that you relate with energy which is being projected from the human heart. So it's got nothing to do really with what they look like. That's an exaggeration, because if it tends to be a long one, it tends to sort of work like a wand. But, you know, they're all different. You can have two crystals that look almost exactly the same, and when you send love to them, they will respond and behave quite differently. So it's got to be what they feel like. Anyone else?
Does it take 36 hours every time you reset it up? So you do
about that to build to the maximum. Normally about 36 hours to build to the maximum intensity, from my experience. A little less if you sort of do it right coming up to the full moon. They'll always be at their peak, and there'll be a bit of an ebb and flow with the moon cycles because that so much controls the Earth's magnetic fields. So how much it's being sucked and squeezed from the Earth's magnetic fields. But as far as working with the core resonance of the planet, that energy will sort of build, and then it'll sort of have a heartbeat which is based on the movements of the moon, but it will kind of increase in intensity about 36 hours and then sort of level off. Yeah.
If you're travelling, is there a way to bring that down at all, or is it things like hotel rooms or
no.
different?
But you know, that had only been sitting there for half an hour when you guys came in, so you know that's how quickly it can build. This particular one would be really hooting in 36 hours. Yeah.
It's a geode.
Geode. You've never seen the like amethyst caves? That's a geode. Yeah.
Michael, is it preferred to actually set it up in the centre of the house or the clinic, or does it not matter?
I couldn't say that it's preferable to set it up anywhere in particular. Depends on what the space is being used for. I wouldn't probably stick it in the corner of the staff room. So, you know, wherever you want to maximise the intensity of the healing space. And that's very much sort of depends on that particular location and so on. So it's a bit hard really to say. Yeah. The best place to put it in a particular room, you just have to get a feel for that and do it intuitively and maybe experiment a little bit. But the orientation is important, you know. The males always face north and east. Yeah.
Did you say that centrepiece must be a male clear quartz?
Yeah. Yeah, the centrepiece, the centre crystal must be male. The slightest little bit of feminine influence in it, but certainly more than 90% masculine.
Michael, can you build little mini travelling ones?
Yeah.
A little board, just little pack up and go to a gig or whatever.
Yeah, that is my little travelling one.
I mean a takedown one, like a box that's just like permanent centre. It's just got a lid.
That's not a good idea.
Okay,
What happens if it falls into someone else's hands?
that's not a good idea.
Not really. It's not a good idea to make it fixed and someone else can get it, and if you want someone to play voodoo with you at a level that you have no understanding of what the ramifications could be, I'd do that. Otherwise not. Yeah, good. Good.
So that's something that just leaves set up for...
Certainly can sending love to it and relating with it, but don't have it somewhere where people can come and play with it, and yeah.
Would it affect you too much if it was in your bedroom? Or have any other?
You'd have to try, see how it goes. You know, it may delay. I was saying to Jen, I think yesterday, the general thing is that you never have smoky quartz near you when you're sleeping because it keeps you awake, puts me to sleep. I love it, you know. So I have lots of smoky around in where I'm sleeping, but most people can't handle it at all. So you know, everyone's different. So just give it a try and see. Yep. Yeah.
I have trouble sleeping with any crystals in the bedroom. Is there any way I can build a tolerance to it, or what? It's just like I can be physically really tired, but it's just like I'm plugged into a battery. And it's like...
Yeah, well, what it is because the crystals are working to help you to end your denial and avoidance. So it's your no-go areas which get agitated, which cause you to not be able to sleep in that particular case. So you've got to be prepared to go everywhere unconditionally to clear, and you've got to let go of the past, and you'll find that won't be the case anymore.